Hello, my sweet friends. I'm so happy you can be here to share some time with me today. If you're new around here, I hope you will consider hitting the subscribe button to join our crafty little family. Now, I'm going to get started with our Christmas in July projects. This is not our 12 days of Christmas in July series, but I did have a couple of projects that were not scheduled in to that series that I wanted to work on, and that would be Memorydex cards. So I thought it would be a great time to get out my winter farmhouse collection from Simple Stories and create some of these beautifully layered and very embellished Memorydex cards for my collection. So at the end I will share with you these three that I have prepared already, and during this video we're going to create this card together. So let's get started. So I'm working with the Simple Stories Winter Farmhouse Collection. This is Simple Stories Christmas Collection from 2020. It is absolutely gorgeous. I just love all of the nature-inspired images and the beautiful paper patterns. So I've got the 6x8 tablet to work with. This is really good for the card size that I'm using today, which is 4x6, because I can get quite a lot of coverage out of each of the sheets, and the scale is quite a bit smaller, so it definitely reads better for smaller projects. I'm also going to be using quite a few of these bits and pieces, just the coordinating ephemera pack, and I had trouble deciding which card to make, so I laid out all my pieces and wound up making quite a few tags. So I will be sharing the completed ones at the end of this tutorial, but once I had all these pieces out, it was kind of fun just mixing and matching patterns with the images, so that was quite enjoyable. And another thing that I did to help myself out was to take a picture of my project. I don't know how well that shows on camera, but I wanted to remember where all the elements fall, in what order to put them down. So I've already prepared all of my pieces and I've laid them out in that order because there are so many overlapping areas. I don't want to get things down before the next layer so that I don't have to take any of the pieces back up, which I did with my previous cards. But for this video, I do want to at least try and look like I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to show you real quickly the box. I'm still using this one that I created with the mat board, and it's just working pretty well for me. I haven't picked one that I want to use permanently, but I think once this gets filled up, I'll just move on to the next box, and then I will pick one to have and keep lining them up, or maybe I'll just keep making them because I really like this little card. I still need to put the rods in the bottom so that the portion that slides will work correctly. So like I mentioned, I am using 4x6 cards. I just cut these with the 110-pound cardstock, and I put 2 layers on just for them to be super sturdy because I'm going to add quite a lot of heavy layering on top. And I used the Heidi Swapp Memorydex punch for the holes on the bottom, and I did these each separate layers so that I didn't have too much thickness going through that punch at one time. I did go ahead and finish the back with the coordinating pattern as well, just to give me a place to put my pictures on, and I can add a tag if I want to include journaling, but this will be the base. So I'm just, like I mentioned, working with that 6x8 pad, and I was able to cover both the front and back with one sheet, so I think that is a good use of that size of paper. The front, and I'm gonna start adding in some of the elements. I've only got one that I'm gluing directly flat, and that's this beautiful wintry tree, and I want it to be pretty high up because I want to be able to see a little bit of it with the layering, and it also helps to add a little bit of dimension. And I've also got a tag, so I just punched this from part of the scrap from another sheet with a stitched edge tag die, and then I added an eyelet here with just some metallic gold cardstock and a little bit of twine. I put the top part on spacers and the bottom part will be flat so that I can have a flat surface to add the next layer onto. This is going pretty high up, and I'm okay with that twine hanging over the top. I'm going to have to come back in and cut the top of that cardstock off a little bit. It was not measured exactly perfectly, but these are just for me, so I'm not as concerned about it. Now the next thing I want to add is this beautiful wreath. Remember, these were the ephemera pieces, so they were already cut out with that pretty scalloped edge. And I've got my spacers as usual. One has a little bit more so that I can keep the top layer flat as I'm working along. And so this is going to hang off of the tag and cover a part of that tree. And then I have this sweet little sentiment, yay, it's a snow day. And I'm going to add this here as well. So here is my second layering pattern paper, and I've just got that put up on a spacer so that I can have some more dimension. And there's quite a lot of foam in here just for the support in the middle. I've got it cut just shy of the edge because I like that border. And so I'm going to line up the bottom where the holes are punched and just add that right there. So this is going to be the bottom base, and I can add the next layers to this. So the bench from the die cut pack is quite pretty, and it takes up a nice amount of room here. I want to add a poinsettia. This is from the Spellbinders Cinch and Go poinsettias that I like to create, and I just coordinated that to the background. I'm going to stick this to the back so that I can cover up where there isn't a stamen on this one, so that there isn't a hole. And I'm going to add this now, making sure not to overlap any of those words. So the next couple elements are just these milk can and the shovel. So what I want to do is sort of overlap this. Now I've got my extra layers of foam so that it will be supported, and I'm gonna come in here almost right to the edge and stick that down. And then I'm going to offset this one so that that corner of the milk can will show, and stick this one down. There's so much dimension. It's so much fun to create these because you can create all these lovely layers. Okay, I've got myself a tiny little cardinal, the most beautiful winter bird, and there's just some of the scrapbook adhesive spacers behind here. Those are the little thinner tabs. I absolutely love those. I get those from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I just want a little dimension for this bird, so that will work perfectly. And they're small, so I didn't have to cut into these at all. And I'm just going to set that bird here like it's resting on the bench. And then the last die cut I'm going to add is the little cup of coffee or cocoa, and I want to offset that again on top of the shovel. So I'm going to cover a little bit of it, but you'll still be able to see it very well. And I'm being very careful once again to stay above the 2-inch line where that box is so that it doesn't get stuck on the side. So for my flower arrangement, I've just got one generous size poinsettia. This one I cut from glitter cardstock and it folded perfectly. I added my stamens from Really Reasonable Ribbon to finish off the center. Here's some die cut holly and a little loopy twine bow, and then this burgundy wrinkle ribbon is the perfect coordinating color for this corner, and that's going to fill in this side. I have to stick this one down with hot glue because it's really quite heavy. I'm going to add a couple of these sequins here as well, just for a little extra detail. I'm going to kind of stagger them throughout so that I have a nice arrangement of the sparkly bits, and I'll add those with my tombow. And for a last final finishing touch, I've got some crystal stickles, and I'm just going to add these where I want to have a little extra accent. So that's all for this Memorydex card. Like I mentioned earlier, I did create a few more while I had all of the supplies out. So this one has that sweet little vintage red truck and some little houses with a kind of scene built in. I've added some die cut foliage here as well. And then I cut those borders on the hillsides with that lawn fawn stitched edge so that it would have a little bit of extra detail. And I tucked in some glitter cardstock for the center one because I thought it looked a lot like a big snowy hillside. And I put a couple snowflakes in here as well just to have a little bit of extra texture. I included those sequins again, and then this time my flower is a darker red, more of a burgundy, to coordinate with the little houses. And of course it does have a sweet little sentiment. So this one wound up to be a shaker, and I'm using the skates as my inspiration in the snow. So I've got my little snowman shaker jar and a little sled in the back. So I've got a couple of different flower arrangements for this one, and it kind of is a nice balance. Remember, all this is going to be above the top of that box, so if it sticks out over the side, it's just fine. And because I'm using that coordinating paper, it's okay that it just has this on the back. I didn't have to finish it any further. I did add a pretty little charm here to coordinate and some larger die cut glitter stars. And then this last one has a focal point made from one of the journal cards, and I just clipped that out around so that I could include him. He's layered on more of those ephemera die cuts, and then I extended this one to have room with a scalloped edge stitch circle so that I could extend all of these elements over the side. This is another one of the journal cards, and I just fussy cut that out as well. Became a really sweet sentiment. I put my sequins here kind of dispersed around so that it would look even, and then I wound up having to cut this die cut and rejoining it to make it fit. But I got a couple of my poinsettias, and this time I put them in white and used my stickles around to get a lot of extra detail. So that is all for my Memorydex cards for today, and I'm just going to tuck them into the box so you can see how nicely they're filling in. It sure does help to have all those dimensional embellishments. It helps to bulk up all of this space. And here is the last one. So I'll probably get through fall and Halloween before this box is finished, and that just fills it in so nicely. Okay, that is all for our project for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you mark your calendar for July 12th. We're going to be starting our Christmas in July. That's our 12-day series of Christmas crafting projects, so you don't want to miss that. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. You can find all our links to all our social media sites in the description below. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.